All right, so just to tell you who I am, because I know I actually wanted to pull you over. Prior to you stopping over, I was telling them, I was like, I want to pull her over for an interview. I run a YouTube channel, CryptoSomniac, a little play on the word insomnia and cryptocurrency, losing sleep over cryptocurrency, which I actually have. And I thought you were an interesting figure, and I wanted to know, first of all, anyway, your name is GEO, for everyone wondering. What is it first, I guess, that you do? Why are you here at Blockcon?
So I work on a couple different projects with a handful of super badass people, including Sean Ironstag, Jonathan Teo, Niraj Mehta, and a ton of other peeps. But those are like the main core members on everything I'm working on. So the first thing is Orin Capital, which is a crypto hedge fund and holding company. And within Orin Capital, there's a bunch of different offerings, including a light pool, which is basically a dark pool, but rebranded because nobody wants to put money in something that's dark, and that's just kind of weird. So make it way friendlier. An arbitrage platform, a token accelerator to push out like the super powerful tokens that have a lot backing them, a lot of underlying technology with great vision, so people actually can trust what they're investing in. So they sort of have like a stamp of approval by Orin Capital that's like, this is a legit token that's not vapor coin, and it's doing great shit in the world, sort of thing. So that's Orin Capital.
Okay.
And these are all very like brushstroke, just like tips of the iceberg sort of things. The second is Karma, which is basically a universal basic income token. And for those of you watching, like, you won't really know what I'm talking about, but it's not the Karma that you see here. I know there's like another person here that has their own Karma thing, but so this one is a universal basic income token that is actually more than that. It's a universal scaling asset token because it shouldn't be basic. It should scale depending on how much value add and input people are putting into an ecosystem or into the system in general. It shouldn't just be a basic flat line for everyone, but it should have a flat line for like the people that are like doing that level. But for people that want to put more, they should get more back from that. And by value add, I don't mean monetary only. Monetary is one method of adding value into something, but it can be anything from services to a skill, a talent, a passion you have, to even just your energy for the vibes you put out, for somebody recognizing that you're always high vibing and they just love that, so they can send you value assignment tokens, and it goes into your value worth pool, and then you have more influence in the community based on how much value worth people ascribe to you, sort of thing. And all of it's gamified, all of it's super fly, super cool, super easy to engage with on the user interface. There's, of course, like most things in this realm, and there's like so much information and detail that's just like information overload to most people. So it's like understanding that, but making it just super basic to understand for everybody that doesn't care about all the underlying technology. So that's Karma. And one of the last things at the moment I'm working on is Portal, which is a totally decentralized, members-owned property/community matrix that is for the Elon Musks of the world, for the Beyoncés of the world, for the people that are on the top tier of influence and power right now, that are coming from the right spaces, but may have things like all of us, like ego, like inner traumas, inner things that, you know, they need to like work through to become the best them they can be. And a lot of them feel siloed. And a lot of them feel alone, and like they can't talk about these things with people because everybody's trying to get something from them. And a lot of them, basically all of them, want to help save the world, but are doing it in their own way and don't feel like they're doing enough because it's just them. And like not one singular person can save the world. So basically what Portal is providing is physical space all around the world, starting with a 40-acre retreat space that we closed on actually the first day of Burning Man. That's in the Santa Cruz Mountains with a video and audio recording studio, a rich history, a whole bunch of properties and stuff on it. Basically providing the space for these awesome, influential, like of the light, on point people to come and test out these new systems of abundance, test out karma, test out how these decentralized systems will work in real time, like real life communities, and really poking it, prodding it, adding culture, you know, pumping out light media, pumping out like getting PR on point, like showing the world that this is like a prime example of the kind of life that can be lived using these technologies for the light and empowering the rest of the world while doing it. A key way to do that is what we're doing is also with each paradisical property that is purchased through, so it's purchased through multiple things, through Karma's ICOs, a portion of the money, depending on like which project we're doing, we clearly list like every single thing that the money is going to. So people, when they invest in the coin, can like see like, oh, like this is where this is going to. And yeah, completely transparent, and it gets people involved and passionate. But anyways, so for each property that's paradisical, that's for like these super on point, like leader people to go to, we're also purchasing land in a place of extreme poverty. So the first land that we're purchasing in our next sale coming up next week is 500 acres in Uganda, which is suffering the world's largest refugee crisis at the moment. So basically, like all the countries and all the places around Uganda are just going through terrible, like massacre times. And Uganda has an open border policy, so everybody's fleeing there. And it started off like somewhat manageable for the UN to like take care of most of the refugees, but there's just millions now. There's like no way that the UN can keep track of all of these new people coming in, like thousands by the day. They're not sure how to like help everybody, how to feed everybody, how to give them shelter, how to give them identity. Like nobody really knows who anybody is. If like a child goes missing, they can't connect them to their family. And most of them are children. Most of the refugees are children. And so basically what we're doing is buying this land, offering it to the refugees. A piece of it is actually in the refugee camp and like part of it on the Nile. Like there's tons of opportunity for like regeneration and really teaching everybody, and they already know, like a lot of them know how to have a farm, how to do these things in their land, like they've lived there and like in places around. So it's like a lot of them know a lot of these skills but don't have the resources or like the time because they're trying to like survive and on basic like human levels. So being able to give them the basics they need and then give them the tools to create more of it and the tools to be empowered, and bringing like awesome people from these alpha testing grounds and these paradisical properties down to Uganda to get them like feet on the ground, like in the grime, like helping the most disempowered people on the planet become some of the most empowered people, and giving them these technologies, Karma, giving them these decentralized technologies and making it super simple, getting them connected to this like huge web, and taking the most disempowered, giving them this. They leapfrog everybody because they're hungry and they're not like comfortable in their situation like most people in other countries. They're not just like, oh, like this is cool, but I'm comfortable sitting on the couch, or I'm comfortable with my day job. They're like, help.
I wanted to ask, like, what has your experience been like with working with people that don't, I guess, have the first clue as to what blockchain technology is? It sounds like they're excited.
Yeah, so it depends on the demographic I'm speaking to. Typically people that are like have made money or have made a seemingly successful life on like other means, especially old finance, things like that, when if they're not really sure what blockchain technology is and I start saying it, there's like an immediate defense mechanism and they're like, oh, well, I'm successful my way, so that's just, well, that's not a thing, whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But to people that haven't heard of it, that are in a place of like openness and in a place of non-attachment to old frames, then I'll present this and they'll just be like, whoa. And they see it for what it is, because their view isn't all distorted by all these like egoic things. And so with mostly people like in places like this, like in Uganda and in places of poverty and places of just like open-mindedness in general, when you offer this to them, they see it for the actual impactful technology that it is and how it can help revolutionize everything, like literally everything. So
I think that's really cool. I'm glad to see someone leveraging the blockchain in that aspect. You hear a lot about all these other different applications, and I think there are almost endless ones, but a very, very great way to leverage those opportunities. What kind of brought you to this point? What did you work on previously, and when did you kind of discover the blockchain to use and what you're working on? What were you working on that before that?
No, so this is like a really beautiful story of life. So basically my whole life I've grown up in small communities just with my mom, traveling in cars, traveling from house to house, like all over the place, but like always super poor, super humble, super creative. Like I always knew I was here for a greater purpose than what I was like currently doing, sort of thing. I ended up living on a farm about like 2 years ago, learning about permaculture, community building, I've done film school like every summer, like all growing up and all that. So I had a lot of experience like working with speaking in front of people, operating cameras. Like I knew a lot about media. I knew a lot about just like connecting with humans on general levels and creating community sort of things. And I found myself about a year and a half ago in a position where I didn't have a lot of money. I was traveling alone and I was basically homeless. I had my car and I would travel to national forests and just like hang out there and start like mapping out like my insides and like seeing like who I was, like what was I here for, what are my skills, like all that jazz. So I was literally living in a national forest about a year ago.
Where
and in Marin, so like I don't know really how to pronounce it, but it's like Mount Tamalpais or something, like around that area. So I was in that national forest and I got drawn to San Francisco, so I stayed there. And one night I had like sort of a breakdown and I was just like, universe, okay, I've been doing this inner work. I've come to a point, I've listed out my skills. Like I know I have a lot to offer and I just want you to use me. Like I don't care about myself. Like I don't care if it's hard. I just want to help you. I want to do something impactful for the world. Like I'm not asking for like beauty and abundance, but like I just want to do something. And it was an honest plea. And the next day, I checked my phone. I saw the first thing that popped up on Facebook was some Burning Man fundraiser. And I've never been to Burning Man, but I heard about it before. And I was like, this looks cool. Like I'm, just in a forest, so I might as well go check this out. Yeah. So I go check it out. And the first person I meet there was Sean Ironstag, who is now one of my like core partners on everything that we're creating. And I met him and he just walked up to me and was just like, this feels very synchronistic. And I was like, I don't really exactly know what that means, but I think I get what you're going for. And he was just like, well, I have all these projects, I have all of these ideas, and I've been looking for women to help empower them, to help invest in them, to help teach them things with some of the most badass people, like some of the most badass people in the community that he's a part of, the community just in general, like that Burning Man community, the tech community, the VC community, just like all of the community around that area. And he was like, and I see so much potential and so much fire in you, and I would love to see how this works. Like if I invest in you, would you be willing to run with this? Like to run with what you're passionate on and like let's see how it flows. And I was like, this is exactly what I asked for last night. Yes. So that was like the initial point of impact, and I ended up he provided a connection to Jeremy Gardner, who is also here with Blockchain Capital and Brock and all of them. He connected me. I got a space to stay at the Crypto Castle, which is like basically this townhouse in San Francisco with a whole bunch of crypto men in it. Like at the time, I think there was like one other girl that was like really never home. But it was just, I just got thrown in there, like straight from living on farms and deserts my whole life. Like not really, I had like a BlackBerry, like I had no idea like anything with tech. And I get there and I'm like, for the first 2 months, I had no idea what people were talking about. Yeah. I was like, what are you saying? Like I would just sit on the couch and I'd be like, yeah, like blockchain, right? Like what is this? So like the first 2 months was just sort of like, I felt so alone. Exactly, but then I realized, okay, I'm gonna start taking notes on words they say a lot. So I was like, all right, blockchain, okay, decentralization, okay, transparency, okay, this thing, like an ICO, like, okay. So I was like writing these things down, and in my spare time, I would Google them, I'd like study them, I'd like watch videos, I'd learn about people in the industry. I just started collecting all this knowledge and just like studying on my own stuff. And eventually came to the point where I had my own opinions on things and like was intelligent enough to have conversation with some of the like big people in this realm. And just, over that time period, I ended up leaving there, finding other spaces, getting involved with Portal, visiting the space in Santa Cruz, really catalyzing that whole movement, bringing people out there, raising all the money for that, and like just making this beautiful thing happen, and really being this female powerhouse in a lot of these realms where there's such a lack of feminine energy, and really pulling in all the other females that I'd find that were like interested, but like were kind of scared or didn't really understand how to get into the field. I was like, come on, like I'll bring you to these events, like I'll bring you to these things, I'll introduce you to these people, like let's start a movement, like let's keep this going. So that's really been my journey to this point thus far, just really taking it into my own hands when it comes to like learning. And I've always been super passionate about finding my own stance in things. I love listening to people. I'm always open to hearing what people have to say, but it's always like I take it in and then I filter it through my like core values, and then I come up with my own conclusion on my opinion on things. So that's basically what it was like for crypto. And while I think that the gains and the money that I made investing is awesome and abundant and beautiful, that's definitely not the point of this.
Byproduct of
Yeah, it's
everything
it's a perk.
Yeah.
I think of it as a perk. So when I'm like working on all of these other world-changing things, and I like check my account, and I'm like, oh, Bitcoin went up. Like that's great. I have an extra X amount of money in my account. That's awesome, and I'm super grateful for that, but that's not my reason for being at any of these events.
I think a lot of people don't know that yet or see that the power of what underlies Bitcoin. And I'm an engineer, and what interested me the most was the blockchain and how it works.
Yes.
How do you think we help people understand that and help get that out there?
There's multiple ways. I actually just created a Crypto Basics Facebook page. So basically disseminating this knowledge and bringing out the core values of things in a very easy to digest, really cool way. Because that's the key, is it has to be cool.
I heard you speak up yesterday. The question, I think it was E equals MC squared, whatever their company name was, Consensus. I forget, they dealt with credit.
Something like
and
that.
you asked the question, something along the lines like, how do we make this cool?
Yeah, because
How do we make this cool?
Yeah, because he said what are ways to get more people involved in this? And earlier he was like, he gave the mic out, and I was like eating pizza, so I was like, oh crap, like I'm going to chew this really fast, but he like ended it before. So at the end I stood up and I was like, well, I believe a way to make this more popular is to make it, first of all, accessible and easy to understand and fucking cool. Like, it's human nature. Like, think back to elementary school, think back to anything. If something was cool, everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted to be it. Everybody was interested in it. And when it's something that's cool, that's accessible and not exclusive, that's for the light, that's doing good, that's just like win. Like,
I think we
ultimate
need
win.
more people like yourself that want to help bring that aspect, because I think
Definitely.
if you see the community here and what their current vibe is,
Yes.
I think you're 100% right. I think it lacks a lot of that coolness factor.
Definitely.
So new, and a lot of it comes from engineers and developers
Yeah.
and people really deep down that
Yeah.
know how it works and understand how to leverage it, but they're having a lot of trouble getting it out there.
Yes, it's true. I mean, it's because not a lot of people that work in this field have great communication skills.
Yes.
And have a lot of their own like insecurities or like things with people, and they're like not too sure how to like disseminate the knowledge and make it understandable and make it like smooth and all that jazz. So that's where I feel I'm like a great piece in, because I have the ability to understand vast amounts of information and then filter it through myself and then pick different skins for it, if you'd like to use that.
Makes sense.
So basically like video game skins sort of thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's a lot of video games with like the basic same storyline with like an elf skin, or this one's a like, I don't know, cop and whatever skin.
Yeah.
But it's like, I do that. I take this like baseline information and I'm like, all right, who am I going to speak with right now? And what do I feel they would like to hear?
Cater that
And
to-
yeah, cater that to each person I speak to. And I don't just give like one straight up thing. Usually at places like this, people have like a base knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's easier. But when I'm out and about,
Anywhere.
having that sort of like, that
Skill
sort of
set.
like insight and that care to really take your time to like cater to each person. Because it comes down to a point of ego. And it comes down to a point of, do I really want to help somebody understand this? Or do I want to just say all this stuff that I know they're not going to understand so I look like I'm smart? And that's unfortunately where a lot of people in this field are at. And they might not realize it, but it's like, if you really want to reach people, you have to make it easy to understand. You have to make
Yeah.
it cool. And
Layman's terms.
yeah, and in the meantime, like, be yourself. Like, that's the number one way to get the attention of people, is to just be you. Like, that's why I show up to events dressed like me. Like, I never wear a suit and tie. And if you do, and if that's you, then that's awesome. But
Yeah.
like, that's not me, so I'm gonna show up dressed like the future. Dressed
Yeah.
like a sexy, empowered woman, and speak fucking awesome things to people, and like, just make that known.
Yeah.
And definitely crypto needs more figureheads, needs more women figureheads, needs more just like just better PR in general. It needs to involve the youth more, because the youth is actually, if they really understood the underlying technology, would be so for this. But there's like all these weird things that like they don't really understand it, and then just leave because like they hear something like credit or something about finance, and like a lot of the youth are scared of that. Because of like, at least I know personally growing up, I was always terrified of money. I never wanted to like look into anything with my banks. I didn't want to like deal with anything financial. And like, you have to bring it up to them. Like when people are doing music things, like decentralizing music. So actually another thing we're doing is creating a decentralized music label.
Okay.
So, and that like runs support on all that jazz, but it's like really impacting culture, because culture moves the markets, culture moves everything. What's in now is like, that is the thing. And really tapping into that is what we're going to do and is what's needed. So yeah, that's my stance on that. Just empowering people. Like that's literally just empower people and provide the steps it takes to get to empowerment and to get to self-confidence and to get to that place where some person off the street that walks past me and says, "What's the blockchain?" to then like explaining to them simply, then next day they're walking down the street, somebody comes up to them and says, "What's the blockchain?" and they're like, "Oh, actually, I'm confident in my answer to this." And then that builds their confidence. And it's like together we're just like creating this abundant blossoming of self-activation, empowerment, just abundance in general, like financially, spiritually, like tech-wise, like in all the levels. That's why I'm so passionate about this. That's why I'm here. That's why I take the time to do everything I do.
I think it's awesome to speak so organically and raw and just, like you said, kind of not like hiding anything, and just, I think some people at first are a bit, I'll be honest, even myself was a bit scared to be outspoken about what blockchain offers. And after overcoming that psychological barrier, it feels really good.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It always feels good. It's like all it is it's all psychological barriers. Literally. Like anything that we think is an obstacle isn't. It's just an innate feeling of smallness compared to something you're presented with at any given time.
It's not tangible. It's not real, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's just all in your head. So it's like knowing that, being aware of that, like that's why constantly every day, if I feel like doing something, for example, yesterday I just got on stage and started dancing in front of everybody. And like, I wanted to do that. I felt that intuition saying like, go on stage and just be silly right now and like make everybody laugh and be yourself and film it. And that's another thing I do. I bring my GoPro everywhere. I film these conferences in a different light. I film them with like people like expressing themselves, like laughing, talking about things, getting groovy. I'll just like kind of sneak up around and film it and then create like a short video afterwards and post it and say like Blockcon 2017. And it's like a whole new perspective. It shows the after parties. It shows people like connecting on deeper levels. It shows things that are cool, things that are sexy, things that are interesting. And then people see that on social media and they're like, oh, like Blockcon, it looks really fun. Like I want to go to the next conference. And then it's like, that's how I like get people to come and get people that usually aren't interested to come. But it's all about just testing yourself. And if you ever feel an intuition calling you to do something, and then your mind says, oh, but what if, then you already know. If your mind says but, then you already know, shut up, I'm doing it. And that's a practice that every day I remind myself to do. So.
It's kind of like, I like to use like, I don't know, a little like 3-second rule in my head when I'm making decisions like that. Just, if you're getting out of bed, give yourself 3 seconds. You don't allow yourself the ability to, I don't know, overthink it or not do something.
Definitely.
What's the best way for people to find you? Do you have a website, Facebook? What was the name of the Facebook page you mentioned earlier?
So it's called Crypto Basics, and it's going to be up. So I already created everything, and I'm like laying out like a schedule of things to like post. It's going to be out within the week. I was going to post it earlier, but I got this like random like thing to come here, so everything kind of got delayed. But it'll be up in like the next week or so, and also. You can find me on Facebook as Augusta Summers, so August with an A and Summer with an S, and then in parentheses GEO. That's the name I go by now, but it's still like a whole transitional thing. On Instagram, it's GEO, GEO _ was WUZ _ here HERE. And that's my Instagram. I'm on a couple other things. If you just type in my name or GEO or whatever, you should be able to find me. Yeah, that's basically for my contact. And one last tip. for y'all when it comes to investing. Something I noticed is a lot of people have hedge funds now. And while hedge funds in this crypto realm are amazing, a lot of people that are making them are good at raising money, but once they raise money, they don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
And I've seen time and time again people that come out with a hedge fund, super charismatic people, people that have like been in the startup game that know how to raise money and they're like, all right, let's do this, yeah, crypto boom. And then they get all this money and they're like, oh, we don't know how to trade. And then they try and they lose a ton of money. So I really encourage anybody that's looking to invest in a hedge fund, give their money to anybody in this realm, to make sure that you research the people that are running it, the people that are trading in it, like look into how they are trading your money. Look into like, do they have any sort of history in trading? Because if they don't, that's like a number one sign not to give them your money. Like just look into them. Like, and if you can, communicate with them, reach out to them, ask them about their hedge fund, ask them about their vision, because it shouldn't just be about money, in my opinion. And I mean, that is a vector of it, but the most successful hedge funds, most successful anything I've seen has like more pieces to it than just that. So that's my tip for all of y'all out there, to be safe with your money. Also, if you're investing into this cryptocurrency for the first time and you don't have any history trading, I do not recommend you to get like super hype about it and just start day trading every day, because that can get very dangerous. And I've seen that again, time and time again, people that are like, yeah, like Joe down the street was trading and made like X amount of money this past month, so I'm just gonna get in here and, oh, I lost almost all my money, oh. So I would recommend like, sitting on a couple things, and if you want, with like a small amount, like practice trading, and then when you get confident, then like, invest more, but that's just my recommendation. So yeah.
I think your sentiments ring true in just cryptocurrency in general, beyond hedge funds, doing your research in a good company. We have so many new companies and ICOs and blockchain launching and this, and I don't know, it's kind of my personal opinion that only 10, 15, 20, I don't know, will eventually end up existing and be able to do a lot of what we do. So I think you really, like I said, do your research, your homework. There's so many ways to leverage. Beyond talks like this, do your own research, go on the websites, go read the teams and authors of whoever is contributing to the projects. There's a lot to be done. I think, we shouldn't just take one person's opinion for granted.
Definitely.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with you. I thank you so much, GEO.
Thank you.
With your permission, I would love to be able to use it on YouTube and just help people understand exactly what we said.
Yes, that'd be awesome. Are you still rolling, by the way? All right, cool. So I'd like to mention one more thing. To anybody watching, if you heard anything I was saying and if you are interested in being involved, feel free to hit me up. Tell me like what your passion is. Tell me what you have to offer. Like, let's collaborate on things, especially women out there. If you're interested or nervous or anything, if you're not nervous and whatever, just come to me. Like, even if it's not about anything we're creating, if you just want life advice, like hit me up. I'll do what I can. Like, stay in touch, but be involved. And everything is completely open, at least with myself and everybody I'm working with. So reach out to Sean Ironstag, Jonathan Teo, Niraj Mehta. Like, we're all here to help. Stay involved with the community, and let's continue this abundant new era of earthly existence.
Thank you so much.